Yeah, just a quick update on where we're at with Highlands Rewilding. We're 1.5 years old now, effectively. We spent the first year up here sort of conferring, talking to everybody that we could across the stakeholder groups, and 1.5 years of operations. And we're trying to scale rewilding, nature recovery, as much as we can, both vertically in terms of adding to the 2 estates I was lucky enough to be able to buy at the outset, Bunloit and Beldorney, and also horizontally, so using scientific firepower that we've been lucky enough to attract to the project to help other landowners in a win-win way with the kind of expertise that we're bringing to bear. And people can see that in our first natural capital report that was released at the Glasgow Climate COP, and the second report will be out next week, or is it the week after, during the biodiversity COP. And we were lucky enough to get good reviews for the first report, and I really commend the second one to you, because you know, I think it's even better. It's more multi-layered and hopefully a real contribution to natural capital verification science. So we raised £7.6 million from 50 founding funders to get this all off the ground. And, you know, we've deployed that obviously in buying the estates and working capital. But we're now, today is the first day of our second round, which is the scaling round. And here I'm really hoping we'll be able to, together with our confederates, you know, engineer a bit of a breakthrough, because we're not setting an upper limit on this. We're saying, you know, we think we've got a bit of an embryonic track record, and if people like what they're looking at, then just invest, because we'll be able to deploy the funds either in vertical scaling or horizontal scaling, or probably, of course, both. And so we're fishing in 3 pools of capital, and I'll just zip through those each in turn. One is further big ticket equity of the kind that we, you know, have already attracted £7.6 million in the first round. The next one is, if you like, citizen rewilders, so smaller ticket equity, so that we can bring in as many co-owners as we can with a share price offering in a crowdfunding campaign that went live precisely 31 minutes ago. And that's the aim of the game. There is to just, you know, be a mass ownership company. So that's what we're hoping, and we're trying as hard as we can to tilt the marketing towards Scots in general and Highlanders in particular, because we're Highlands Rewilding. And yeah, so that's underway right now. And I just sent an email a while the previous speaker was on to say we're already up at 9% after a few minutes. So that's super encouraging. And then the third pool is debt. So all this equity, we will hope to leverage debt. We're obviously talking to banks. So let me go through each one in turn. First of all, the big ticket equity, 49 of the founding funders were affluent rewilding enthusiasts, most of them business leaders of different sorts, investing as individuals. The only financial institution that invested was, well, one invested crucially, and that's MFS International. That's a big mutual fund, putting a toe in the water. And this time around, we're really hopeful of being able to engage the really big funds to, you know, begin climbing into the foothills of the £20 billion that the Green Finance Initiative tell us is going to be required if Scotland is going to hit its targets over the next 10 years. So that's an Everest, and we're not even in the foothills yet. So Highlands Rewilding is hoping to lead a bit of an expeditionary force into the foothills, and that'll be a litmus test. If we can bring other financial institutions to the game, And it's super encouraging that MFS are reinvesting. So, you know, in fact, most of our founding funders are reinvesting in this second round. And that's immensely gratifying. It sort of tells you everything you need to know about how this team has performed, you know, to keep investors happy on that scale. So fingers crossed, all this momentum will continue, and obviously anyone can think of to help. And along with that, then please do tell your mates about the crowdfunding round. You can link to it off the Highlands Rewilding website. And yeah, fingers crossed that we can make a useful contribution. I think that's it, Simon. Obviously very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. Does anyone on the call have questions?
Yeah, I got a quick one. So, Jeremy, it's really exciting to see Highland Rewilding's, you know, next step forward. Lots of eyes on it, so no pressure, but it's just so exciting, you know. It's what we need. But I'm just interested in, I mean, I know that you know, this is be somewhat speculative, I think. But you know, given that you're talking about that journey into the foothills towards Everest, you know, what's your feeling about the stage at which those investors, particularly people like MFS, the fund that you mentioned, are going to start seeing some return, some financial return, as opposed to investing for the good of it?
We're telling everybody that we're going to bust a gut to deliver them an ethical level of profitability over a 10-year period, annualized. And so obviously it's a patient investment. Most of that, if it comes, will come at the tail end. And, you know, 5%, 6%, which is what is in the business plan, that will put venture capitalists off, actively put them off. And I'm not depressed about that, having had 20 years of experience of venture capitalists. So, you know, we're really hoping that we can get financial institutions to come along and, you know, accept the risk that's involved at this stage. And they call it political risk, and it is. But, you know, I've kicked the tires enough talking to folk like your good self, who are trying really hard on all this behind closed doors, and also the politicians up here. So I'm very bullish when I talk to the investors about the management of that risk. And you know, it's a collective endeavor, and of course it'll be iterative. If we succeed in raising, you know, a fair amount of money, then, you know, I'm not going to tell you who the two banks are that are at the top of our list, but I bet you can guess. So we'll try and put some pressure on them in the nicest possible way. Yeah. And the other thing to say, I think, is the whole zeitgeist is very encouraging. It reminds me of the solar revolution, which of course I saw when I was a solar entrepreneur. And those days you could smell the tipping point coming. You could smell it in the air. And that was an exciting time. And of course that produced a whole new industry globally. And we were able to be fortunate enough to ride that exponential rise. And it feels like, some days feel a bit like Groundhog Day. The difference now is that the main difference is that then we had an incumbency that was frankly evil in its behaviors. And I'm talking about the oil and gas industry, of course. But this time it's just totally different. I mean, the zeitgeist in that there is an incumbency. It's traditional landowners and land managers, but you know, you'll know yourself that many of them are taking part in the whole process. So it's everything to play for.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, it's really interesting to hear your perspective Jeremy. I have to say, I've tried twice to visit Bunloit personally, and each time I've been ill. Last time I had COVID.
Oh, right, I remember.
So I'm going to try and get up there in the new year, or down there,
You're welcome.
because I'm in
Well,
Shetland.
You missed it. There were 30 of your colleagues that day, but you'll be welcome, even if you can only come on your own.
Might be. There might be nobody else left who hasn't been by the time I get there.
John, I've not been yet, so we can go together.
Great. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Jeremy. I've got a question. Really enjoyed seeing the business plan, the comprehensive business plan you've put together, and you make mention of the sister companies. So is there something you can tell our audience about that, and how this opportunity relates to the opportunities in England?
Yeah, we're in a sisterhood with two companies down there. The famous Knapp Wildland that everybody knows about, Charlie Burrell and Isabella Tree's estate at Knapp, and they've been doing this for 20 years. So I reached out to them, really quite early on, and they were wonderfully helpful. I mean, I'm a beginner, I've surrounded myself, just like I did at Solar, with people who know what they're doing, but I'm still a beginner, and they were even so, they were very helpful. So then my former finance director at Solar Century wanted to do the same sort of thing as I have been doing in Scotland, down in England, in lowland England, arable reversion, all that sort of stuff. He gets it at the same level, and he'd set up a company to do that. And then we all got talking with Charlie Burrell, and he said, well, why don't we join forces? So that company, Nattergal, has just bought its second lowland England site. And we're not part of a group or anything else. We're sisters. We talk to each other all the time. We share a couple of staff, skill share all the time, lots of to and fro and emails. But as you'll be aware, Simon, there's a world of difference between, and I mean, right, at scale, very different,
Thank you. Any other questions for Jeremy? I guess I can have another question then. So kind of like, where does this go for you, Jeremy? I mean, is it very much a Scottish affair? Is there any ambition globally?
Well, no, I mean, there's so much work to do in Scotland generally, and the Highlands perhaps in particular. So, let's concentrate on that. The idea is to concentrate on that, and whatever happens, we will be a creature of the Highlands. Our governance is by Highlanders, or people who have spent loads of time working in the Highlands and know lots about it. And Hannah is one of our directors who's on the call. So, that organization now leads the company. I'm a minority shareholder now in the thing that I've created. Of course, I'm on the board, but but I'm a minority shareholder. So it will be Highlands Rewilding. But yeah, I mean, if we're super successful, obviously there will be investors will be on our case. Get out there and help the Paraguayans. No, that's going too far. We do everything we can here close to home, and then let's see.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see things is how you're playing that role to inspire things globally. So thank you.
Yeah.
And John.
Yeah, I completely understand your completely right, I think, desire to keep Highland focused, there is more than enough to do to keep you and a few others busy for a lifetime. But what I think I would say is that, you know, it's pretty clear that there's obviously a global appetite for this. There's also a global appetite for the innovation that's required, and especially around means of attracting investment, which includes, you know, verifying and assuring people about outcomes. And I think that's where Scotland and Highlands Rewilding, as one part of the ecosystem in Scotland, can really help with that, and potentially has a huge opportunity to develop tools and approaches here that others can use in different parts of the world. So, you know, I think that's kind of already starting to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And you know, we are learning stuff on the frontier with data and the management of data, the use of data, the mining of data for economies, and all that sort of thing. And obviously we're not going to sit on that. This will be a global industry that's emerging, and data is going to be hugely important in all of it. And I had, at the risk of sounding like I'm name dropping, I walked around Bundeloit for 2 hours with Kate Forbes, and you know, she's a qualified accountant. And by the end of the 2 hours, we were talking about data services as a Scottish export business in the Scottish economy of the future. And you know, yeah, absolutely. Very, very exciting. And we would be enthusiastic players we will be enthusiastic players in trying to make that happen. And, you know, at the risk of being partisan, I can't think of many politicians down in Westminster who you could talk to about something like that, who wouldn't glaze over and look at you as though you were some kind of mad creature. So, you know, there's opportunity here as well on the investor scale and on the national scale.
And sorry, I'm coughing away behind my mobile phone here, but we really hope to get the second natural capital report mentioned at COP15 as well. So we're just working with Scottish politicians to see whether it can make its way to Montreal. So hopefully that happens over the 12 days of COP, or however many days there are at this COP that we're talking about.
Excellent, thank you. And I can see in the message you're now at 13% fundraise. So congratulations, Jeremy. Okay, so does anyone else, as I say, it's quite a smaller meeting than usual. So does anyone else have any more questions, or would we like to conclude the call for today? Yeah, okay, so thank you everyone for joining. As I say, and it's an open network meeting, so it has been recorded, so this will be available on YouTube. So we're all superstars in our own right. So have a great day. And best of luck to Jeremy for the next few weeks.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you all.
See you all.
Yeah, bye.
Cheers then.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.